the Jewish children, I said, this year. But yeah, they have all kinds of activities going on yeah, I mean, the crowds, the beach is still just crowded, I mean, yeah. So, yeah. Are you working on it? Oh, yeah, I have. Is that gonna have a little extension for somebody to go? I have one for this. I have one so you can, I'm gonna have to go to my apartment to get one for the.
Try to turn it on and it keeps down.
Yeah, isn't that strange? But it's connected, it's just not charging fast enough. Give it a minute.
So I think that's Switzerland.
I think they're gonna, we don't need this, right?
I think we're gonna
one of the microphones. Oh, okay. It's supposed to be here, the microphone in the computer, but it's too far. So I like to keep one microphone here so you can hear it on the live
Yeah, but I
stream.
don't think that the microphone here is going to help translate whatever. I don't think so.
Maybe if you have the speaker a little closer to this side.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't hear. You understand?
So, they will return. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, no, sorry. Susie.
I'm charging it over there because I had to connect the other thing. The battery is
This one, okay, I can replace this one.
This one's good. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The middle chairs don't work. She places her back on your couch. She can sit over there, on the middle over there. She can pass over there. Because if you're sitting here, she's giving the back to the other people.
Yeah, that's fine.
This might work better. Small law school. Great. Listening to the from office in the law school, South Florida.
Here?
I'm going to August market office, yeah.
Your mom said you have this.
This one is on, this one is.
Okay, we'll only need one at a time. Yeah, you wanna turn that off? We'll just keep this one. Turn that off. Because sometimes it gets static.
Yeah.
This one is off.
Oh, like they're gonna be going back and forth. Like a
No,
debate.
they're not. It's not a debate.
It's not a
One
debate.
person at a time. One person at a time. It's not a debate. I don't hear it. Hello? I don't hear anything. Hello? Okay, here. When you connected it.
We changed it.
Yes, I know. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, they were ready.
We're just going to wait a little bit.
So anyway, Nicole passed on us last night because the speaker that was gonna be here, Nicole, she's in Texas, and I helped with the court victims, she's from Texas, and she just couldn't make it, so instead, we are having a second speaker, my rabbi, from the temple, okay, Leora, you know her?
I do not.
Okay, you'll meet her, she's very lovely. Nicole Casbola, because she's still in Texas. They're helping, yeah, she's there helping with the floods, the victims. Leora, Temple Emmanuel. Beautiful. So just know it's I started
Oh, wow. So, but you teach it, yeah.
I was somewhere in the other, first semester honors, if you know what this was, And then I say, like, always use the last.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone, okay, where am I? Zero.
Hello?
Okay, let's sit down, everyone. Okay, everyone ready? don't know if everybody heard me, but our other speaker, unfortunately couldn't make it back to Florida because she's still in Texas, helping the people from the flood. She is in Texas, but she apologized that she had to disappoint her. So I immediately called Rana and I said, please save me. Ladies, is everybody on the mic?
Not too much, but.
It's better than you do. I mean, yeah, but we're loud also. It was slow like this. All of this. This is the wrong.
No, cómo
Okay. Okay, so, anyway, so this evening is not a debate, and this is not politics, okay? So we are not allowed to bring up politics. Okay? We are going to be speaking to something that I think represents humanity, and that is, we're going to be speaking about truth, okay? So our first speaker is our Commissioner Kristen Gonzalez, if you all know her, and she's going to be our mayor. So many people want to hear. Thank you for organizing this, and do I need to be on the microphone because we're being filmed, or can I turn? Okay.
I can't tell, you have to, somebody has to watch it on the.
Okay. Oh, okay, don't worry. I see.
I think I can project it So the reason that this forum came about, and although this is apolitical, I'm gonna explain why we're sitting here talking about the truth. A couple of Democratic legislators in Minnesota were shot, and Inez and I are friends, and I'm a Democrat, and Inez is a Republican, but we both serve on our affordable housing advisory committee, so we have a great relationship. And we told my mother is, a Republican. So look, we're one country, we're all, Americans. So Inez, I told her, look, these two Democratic senators were shot. And she sent me a link from X. And I said, but did you, because she said this was a Democratic conspiracy and somebody else had shot someone. And it was like a little bit. So I looked at the handle. Well, no, because this happens to everybody, Inez. And the handle was at Bubble Bath Girl. So somebody who had a lot of followers named Bubble Bath Girl was spreading this conspiracy about these shootings. But the problem is that these things are happening all the time. Misinformation people are getting. So I said, how do you find where the truth is? When you have somebody telling you that it's a Democratic conspiracy and you have somebody telling you that it's a Republican conspiracy, where do you get to a point where you can say, okay, we want to call people and what is the truth? And a lot of it has to do, I think, with algorithms on social media. As I walk that, I talk to people all day. And I will talk to one person who will tell me that this is the end of the world and the end of democracy. And then the next person that I speak to will say, we're living in the best time ever. This is the best president ever. So it's very hard. It's very divisive. And my opinion is that so many things, nonpartisan elections are really the best kind of elections because all of us care about clean water. All of us care about traffic. If you live here in Miami Beach, I'm sure you care about historic preservation and living in a, sexy, slightly resort town that's always moving, that's the center of everything. And none of these things have anything to do with politics. At the end of the day, there's way more locally, politically that unites us. And so that's why we decided to have this informal conversation tonight about what is the truth. And is it coming from social media? Where is it coming? So this is where I'm starting from, and I would like to share it to you.
So I'm Professor Emmanuel, literally, 3 steps from here. Ines asked me yesterday to come and talk about the truth. So I'm coming to talk about the truth from, non-political eyes. My role is to unite, not to divide, and politics tends to divide us. And this is literally a kind of unity, I think, that all of us should work very hard. So I have things to say that are very much, Torah related, and I found the story. It's not actually from the Torah, the story, but it's about twin brothers. One name was Truth, and the other name of the other brother was Lie. And Truth and Lie were next to this lake. It was freezing cold, and Lie told Truth, okay, let's try to see who can swim all the way to the end and come back and be the first. Who's gonna be the winner? So Truth said, okay, I'll with you, let's do that. And Lie said, but we have to take off all our clothes, and then I'm gonna count to 3, and we're gonna jump in. So they took off their clothes, they count to 3, they not both jumped in. Only Truth jumped in, and Lie stayed out. He took the clothes of Truth, he put them all on, and went back to the city and said, I'm the Truth. And then Lie came back, he did the whole swim, come back, can't even find his clothes, and the only clothes he sees is the clothes of Lie. And he said to himself, I'm not gonna put the clothes of Lie, because then it will, I'm gonna march back into town naked. And that's where the naked truth here. So this is, just a story, but I will tell you that one of the things that I'm trying to do at Temple Emmanuel, because I'm the first woman and the first Israeli rabbi, and so my Hebrew is perfect. And because you'll be surprised, a lot of rabbis, their Hebrew might not be perfect. So because my Hebrew is perfect, I want to teach people through Hebrew. And Hebrew, if you don't know it yet, is magical. So if you take the word truth, in Hebrew it's emet, which some of you maybe even know the word emet. You might not even know that you know it. You know emet? Yeah. So emet is emet with a T. E-M-E-T. Well, in Hebrew, right, Aleph Mem Taf. Like, that word is beautiful. Why? Because Aleph is our first letter, Taf is our last letter, and Mem is right there in the middle. So to get to the truth, you have to start from the beginning, you have to go through the middle, and go all the way to the end. And all the letters, the Aleph, the Mem, and the Taf, are those letters that have 2 feet. They don't stand on one leg, they're very stable. And then the other word for lie is sheker, and sheker is shin, and it stands on one leg, and kuf stands on one leg, and lesh stands on one leg, and all those letters are literally one after the other. So it's really close, there's no, it's not like emet that you have to start from the beginning and get all the way to the end. Another beautiful thing that I love to do is numerology. And if you take, because in Hebrew, I don't know if you know that, every letter has a value. So Aleph, of course, is 1. Mem is in the middle, it's 40, because once we get to 10, we don't go 11, 12. We jump to 20, 30. Once we get to 100, we do 200, 300. So Mem is 40, and Taf is 400. And then if you take 441, you get to the number 9. And what is the number 9? By the way, it's an amazing number. It's my number, by the way. Number 9
is the 9th, what do we have 10 now? 10 commandments. The 10 commandments. You want to open up everything? The 9th is the one that we learn to say, you shall not lie, right? So it's the number 9. That word, emet, is about not lying. But then it's so philosophical, because if you're lying, right, or you know, I think that you're lying and I'm thinking that I'm telling the truth, you know, this is what we say, you know? You say something, I say something, and the Torah does not say the truth. Because sometimes we can't say the truth. Because guess what? We don't know the truth. So this is a very interesting topic. When you told me about this, and I said, this is something that we need to teach. We need to teach even in schools. And you know what's beautiful about Judaism, and I'm not sure if all of you are Jewish, but in Judaism, we are allowed to lie. We are allowed to lie when it is for shalom bayit. Shalom bayit, shalom, peace, and bayit is home. So for example, if your friend gets married and comes with his bride and tells you, look at my beautiful bride, and you look at her and you say, I wouldn't say she's beautiful, right? This is your truth. You are allowed to lie and say, she is dead gorgeous.
We call that a white lie.
Yeah.
Well, so sometimes, you know, we're doing it for peace. And in this world, where there's so much war, it's good to know that sometimes we can give those little lies, even between our friends. Right? So even if you know that something is in friends with Inez, you know, something's going to make her feel good. Sometimes it's okay to give that, you know, twist your truth, because your truth is not the truth. There's only one truth, and it's, you know, I will tell you as a rabbi what is the truth. The truth is God. That's it. That's where it starts and ends. And all of us are holding to our truth, but it's ours. And that's why I'm gonna take a break, because I spoke.
Look, I think for a long time, our opinions were formed by the media, right? We had, well, what everyone's calling legacy media now, which were our network stations, and we had newspapers, but all of them courses in journalist integrity. And even now, for example, if you were gonna go on any major network, you are not allowed to report anything but the stuff. It is fact checked. So how come all of a sudden, this legacy media, people are telling us, no, don't look at the network stations, or don't look at PBS or, you know, CNN, because they're lying, but they're not allowed to lie. But you could go on Instagram and see Bubble Bath Girl, or not just, you know, Bubble Bath Girl, or for example, I was scrolling yesterday, and I see this man, and he's telling this story. There's all these cats, and he's like, look what's happened. All these cats have come to southern Florida from Georgia. They're all coming down, and they think it's some sort of magnetic field that's strong. I was fascinated, because the cats are walking hundreds of miles. So I'm watching it, and I go, where is this? I've never seen, there's so many cats. So I look in the comments, and somebody goes, that's not South Florida, that's Morocco, right? So somebody just told this lie, and I don't know how it came in front of me, but they're telling this crazy story about all of these cats, which I found fascinating because I happen to be a cat lady, okay? And there was, the point is, whether you're talking about cats or whether you're talking about a conspiracy, I find it fascinating that all of a sudden and this is kind of partisan, that we no longer want to believe the networks or major news sources. I have to, when I read the Wall Street Journal or I read the New York Times, I know that it's fact checked. So from this other perspective, saying that's not the truth, well, is it facts, but just from a different viewpoint? And that is why we're here today, because I'm fascinated to find out how we got to this point where we say people who study journalism and literally have laws that govern telling the truth. For example, I mean, I hate to even say it because I'm probably going to get criticized, but Fox News had to pay millions of dollars recently because they were not they did not fact check something. So how does it
Kristen, that was about, how do you see the truth and where do you find the truth? Where do you find the truth?
I find the truth in people. I try not to categorize, well, I try not to categorize people. I try to have conversations and based on empirically what I see. And then the issues that come before us are issues that affect anyone. When we get a flood or we have a storm, it's not gonna just rain on me because I'm a Democrat and and be sunny where you are. So we have to find.
Actually, sometimes. I sometimes stand here and it's pouring and I see the sun like 2 blocks that. So I have to.
So I ask myself, what are the things that matter to us and the human issues that come before us? I think compassion and empathy and understanding where people live, what their issues are, listening to them. And people come to me with everything. I mean, your swale or your tree doesn't have a political party. And I once heard Philip Lee say that. He would say, your street doesn't have a political party. And I strongly believe that. And I almost wish that if we all saw each other as people and we didn't label each other as parties and we were able to just move forward and say what the right thing to do is. And I think the right thing to do comes from religion and morality in some sense, from the 10 Commandments and these notions. I think that's what's more important than the social construct that we have created that is now tremendously dividing us, which is the party system. So that's why we wanted to have this. And everybody here has their own truth. Anybody have an example of something that happened to them lately where they find that they read something or saw something and it was very far from the truth and got upset about it? Because I think technology is playing a large role in warping our vision of reality. Okay, Brandon, that's my
I'll be the Gen Z representative for tonight. I spend a lot of my time on Instagram and TikTok, as a lot of people my age do, when I fall into something called brain rot, where you're just watching video after video and video, and it's just like this positive feedback loop that you kind of just become mesmerized by. And it happens literally, constantly throughout my day that you see just big stuff. So much big stuff. AI, or even just videos that said, oh, this guy did this, and now this happened, and there's a video underneath it. And in the comments, somebody will be like, I know this person, that didn't happen. They took somebody else's video and they're, putting some caption on it to get likes. And so, at the end of the day, I feel like our society and specifically how we truth find and what we look at has become so sensationalized. So it's not necessarily what the truth is that's getting out there to most people. It's what's the most exciting and what's the easiest to capture their attention. Yeah, exactly. And so I'd say that's just part of my perspective is there's such a lack of the truth on social media, especially, that it's really hard, and I think it's really hard for my generation, although I do think my generation is better at kind of finding the truth when it comes to these sorts of things, because we're so used to it. It's completely ingratiated in us that so many of these things that we're gonna see aren't the truth, and I can tell the difference between what's an AI video and what's not an AI video, but you may not be able to. And
Yes, actually.
exactly. Yeah.
But I have a question to you, why do you keep on, consuming lying?
Well, sometimes it's just funny. You know, it's funny or it's entertaining, and I mean, I've been known to like something that's a lie. I mean, just because it's a lie, I mean, I don't know that it's a lie, it's not become my truth, you know? So, I mean, that's another aspect of that, and maybe I then repeat that to somebody, and then that becomes their truth.
But that's dangerous because it can result in a war. You know, look at when they released like Facebook in Myanmar and ended up causing a literal, uprising. And so something that started out to connect all of us has turned into something that is tremendously dividing all of us. And,
But I want to make a realization, not about what's in the internet. What's in your heart and your mind, your experiences, how you find the truth, each one of us. And, and anyone that wants, okay, so one thing I have found in talking to people is that their truth has something to do with their experience of life, their individual experience of life. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. So we all have different experiences of life. And so it's, when you talk about individual truth, I don't think you can do it without understanding that you have to see that person's experience in your life. Because it influences the way that you work. How I do it, I'm sure you experience in my life, influences the way I see the world and how I judge whether something is true or not. So, I think that you look at truth as, and you were mentioning, whether it's media or in media or social media or whatever, if that's something from outside of you. So I think somehow to also think about truth, you have to also think at what comes from inside you, as opposed to this action to just things that because it's inside of you influences very much how you interpret what is happening.
And that could change
Yeah, it can change.
inside of you.
Yeah, it can change.
Because you're growing.
Right.
And that's what people have to understand. We are growing. And as we grow, we change. Because you did not think the same when you were 4, and how you're thinking now. Because you evolve, right? And your truth evolves with you. So this is something that people have to understand. What you think today, if you had a truth regarding something, and all of a sudden, you grow into something and you're like, oh, I'm betraying my truth. You don't betray your truth. Allow yourself to evolve and to grow. And wow, even maybe change your truth because it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it, right? As you.
I mean, I think you filter things where you have more experience, more, the world expands. But I do think people do have interests. I'm not gonna say it's rigid, but they form your opinion, and are part of it. But that's not to say that they can't change their minds. Okay, I think what do you want to say something?
To your point, I also feel that our experiences when we grow, we also seek reassurances in attitude. So the story that I might have as a child, seeking out a belief system, I might look to others with my similar belief system, not because I'm a Republican, not because I'm a Libertarian, not because I'm a Democrat. It's because I like-minded individuals to reassure my own belief system. Because without that integral moral compass, which for me is the Lord, without that, I think we seek in others to find that reassurance that we need, that we, I think, crave as individuals, as humans, because That's why we love to collaborate, that's why we love to congregate, that's why we get together in groups. Because that feeling of belonging, that feeling of needing to belong is very deeply embedded in who we are as a species. And so my truth as a young Christian might evolve, but I'm always seeking that truth because it's familiar to me. It's what I know. I don't know anything other than that. However, I think when you go to secondary education, or you go to college, or you go to law school, or you go to medical school, you are exposed to different truths. And I think it takes a strength within knowing who you are as an individual to be able to say, I respect your truth. It's different from my own truth because it doesn't bear resemblance to how I was raised or what I know to be my own truth. But it takes, I think that takes a certain amount of courage to assimilate in a different way that you wouldn't know but for your own experience. So to be able to say to a person, we can disagree, we can agree to disagree, but I see your perspective, I respect your perspective because it's your own. It's very hard to remove somebody from their own belief system because it's so deeply embedded in who they are as a child. And that's formed from experience, that's formed from who you grew up with, who your family is. If you're an only child, if you have a sibling, if you come from a certain sort of socioeconomic background, all of that, I think, plays integral parts into our own individual truths. And I think the Lord for me is a very strong center. Not everybody has that, not everybody's had the opportunity to be exposed to that. So having somebody like yourself speak that truth to them in a way that makes sense, that it resonates with them, I think is so important. But not everybody has that experience. So it can be objective, but I think ultimately it's very subjective, which is why we come into like a stand, a box, and a culture. We're all drawn to different things from our own experience.
I think we're speaking about different life or values, and that's not the truth. You know, just because you believe that this is what it got, that's still doesn't define what the truth is. Because I don't think that you have a truth, I have a truth, no, the truth is what? It's what? And it doesn't change. That you have different experience, it's an experience, it's not the truth.
It's your point of view, right? So when you're somebody can say something and you say it a certain way.
But it's an opinion, but it's not the truth.
But that's not even interpretation.
Basically, I think everybody makes sense to that. But we're talking about experiences as, how do we place our experiences? Truth. Truth is common sense. We could have any kind of experience in our lives. We could go through a lot of things in life. That doesn't make it true. I think truth is more analytical, like math. 1 and 1 is 2. It's just practice. The truth equals facts. So we have to use common sense to find the truth. Although sometimes we have bad experiences in life, good experiences, and we think, oh, this is cool. So I went drinking one day and I got drunk and I was, liquor's the best thing. You know, it's not the truth. It's really not good for you. I smoke a cigarette. Oh, but it was a good cigarette. No, truth is analytical. Truth is based on common sense. So as human beings and people, even if we hear something, let it be in the news, let it be in this forum, so we have to kind of say, but does it make sense? Is it right? Is it wrong? We have, as humans, we have a mind that we can make decisions, and we're independent. Now, we could choose to go with the truth, or we could choose to deviate with the truth. I might believe in something that other people don't believe in. Some says in religion. These people think this is my God, this is my God, this is my, but there's only one God, and we all know this. So basically, when it comes to truth, is the best way I could explain it to friends and family. I mean, I have a lot from my family, trying to get them to, make sense. Just put it together, make sense. Make sense, does this make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Math, 1 and 1 is 2, it's not 5. If it doesn't make sense to you, then it's not true. So basically, our experiences sometimes brings us to believe that what we think is true, but that is not the truth. So we have to dig in and, some people care about this, finding the truth about anything. It could be anything. The water that we drink has fluoride. Somebody might say it does, somebody says it doesn't, somebody says it's good, but not so, so basically,
That's true. The truth is they took away the chloride.
and that's a good thing, I think, I don't know.
Well, that's what you think, I don't think it's a good.
But this is why, we have to find out why, right? So we have to go into basically.
I think we can agree to disagree. Or have to be more.
No, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There's a solution.
Yeah.
Put the fluoride in the water, okay? So, right?
Well, my point is, the fluoride is taken out. That's my sense.
Yeah, but you can put it in the water and you're free.
And you know what, and you might be right, I have my own sisters all over the place, writing letters to the senators and writing letters. Listen, see people that are certified in this, and what are the pros and cons? That's how we come to the truth, and still, I don't read on this every day, I don't have the time, but basically the truth is finding the right source, looking at it and comparing it and saying to yourself, does this make sense? Does fluoride causes this? It doesn't cause that, so that's a lie. So we have to find out whether fluoride is really damages people or doesn't damage people, but by who? By the researchers.
But when everybody in society is saying we have this notion of the alternative fact, right? And we can really massage data however we want, and we're being fed this information. How do you find what, I think the polar alternative facts that we're being fed are creating a tremendous amount of division, and I think the only way to counteract this is to come together and talk about it and find what does unite us, which is humanity and love and empathy and understanding. Right? I mean, I try not to judge anybody until I hear what they have to say. Why? Oh, family. It could be, family. But I mean, truth, what you're saying right now is the empirical version, right? As a PhD, I have to have a hypothesis, I have to be able to prove that hypothesis, and that hypothesis has to come from something.
No, you have to refute. You don't seek to prove, and science, you seek to refute that hypothesis. We don't seek to prove. Then we're looking for an inflammatory bias.
Right. It's very easy to prove anything, like you said.
There's always a science to refute.
I can tell you the sky is black and take you out at midnight and the sky is black. But then president is blue, also. Anyway.
This is my time. It's been a crucible for years.
Okay.
Now, how has your experience how has your experience there influenced your view of the truth? Or how have the experiences you have changed your view of the truth?
When I first started, I thought that my way was the right way and the highway and the only. But over time, understanding that we have to get a majority of votes together, what I try to do now is practice listening. And listening from that person's perspective, which many times, as you all know, is vastly different from mine. And very hard to get it. So it's this constant practice of empathy. Where is this person coming from? Let me open myself up to compromise and understanding what that other person has. And I'm really proud of my ability to do that. Because most people, when they disagree, they get caught up in a group thing. And then they cannot even listen to anyone else. And that is how I've matured and grown, is being able to listen to everybody's opinion and say, you know what, maybe I can change mine. And that's really removing a lot of ego out of it. And I would say it's easier for women to do that than men sometimes. Not that I'm having but no, yeah. But, and that's true. And I found myself many times, I would have never said at the beginning, you're right. And now I can easily step back and say, that's a great idea. You're right, and I'm going to change the way that I'm thinking, and let's amend this and move forward like that. And that's, I think, the best thing that we can do in politics. And that idea of not being able to reach across the aisle and have a conversation and come to some place of compromise in the center, right? I think it's black and white.
I want you all to know that every time that Kristen and I have organized events, she's gotten so much attack and pushback, and you too.
Oh, this caused a lot of controversy. You know, Democrats were saying, what are you doing? They're fascinated kind of by it. And Republicans too, and at the same time, were like, oh. So, you know, and it was very funny because I was at a Democratic event, so I have to represent people. And that's what we are. Rainy Beach residents, fellow Americans, neighbors, brothers and sisters, we all breathe the same air, we all drink the same water, unless we have special filters. And so I like to find what the humanity in everything, because that's what's most important, I think, than everything else.
The answer is wonderful. And it has a long time, so I have heard that there might be that change, and that's going in all directions.
This is a huge compliment. Thank you, that means a lot. Is anybody else going to share it? The man over there is great, and you would like to say something.
Well, why are you running? I'll say something that's important. Why are you running for mayor now? Are you term limited in the council, or?
Term limited, and I think because I've gone through this process of nearly a decade, being elected, not elected, I think it takes time to get to a point where you can lead a group and be cohesive and actually share what you learn along the way with others. And I do think I have a great relationship with everybody that's there on the commission at this point. And I think that sometimes that takes a long time to cultivate. I used to see, you know, Dan Gelder was very talented. He would bring us all along. He was, you know, he had his ways and we did not agree all the time. Sometimes he would get so mad at me, he would just bang the gavel and stop the meeting. He didn't like what I was saying. But I will tell you that, you know, politics is an art form, and frankly, I think now, what I say to myself is, what the litmus test is, what's best for Miami. Okay? Everything else aside, because you have factions who want development, people who want zero development, people who want something in between. And you kind of have to just all level ask yourself, what's best for Miami Beach? Recently, we voted to replicate the Zobo. I thought that was very important. For example, when you drive down Sunny Isles, at one time, for those of us who remember Sunny Isles, when it was small hotels, it was called Motel Row. And it was this series of really cute motels, and every single motel had a different theme. Some had, you know, camels outside, and then you had the teepees, and it was brilliant. You had jockeys, and so had Sunny Isles respected who they are and saved those motels and built onto them. Sunny Isles would have a soul, I think. If you would go to those places, you would go to the Thunderbird, you know, at Christine. They didn't do that. So when somebody came to us and said, I'm willing to replicate this Zobo that's not demolished, that people love everywhere, I said, okay, that's the compromise. Replicate the Zobo. People got very angry and really vilified. But I think it was a good thing because we have to move forward, and we were getting something that allowed us to remain Miami Beach and retain who we are at a time when nobody else wanted to. Frank Gehry came in with a fancy design a few years earlier. We said no. I said, can you replicate the Zobo? And he goes, No way. He said, you know what he said to me? Frank Gehry and Stephen Ross, they are very powerful people, the owner of the Miami Dolphins. He goes, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put a bar in the jungle and I'll have the Beatles and the jungle flashing on a screen. And I go, that's not good enough. And we went to referendum on it, and all of you voted no.
I voted for it.
You did not
I
vote.
liked it better than the current project.
Well,
Superior.
I'll tell you
In
something.
every sense.
We had this time a rendition that was really beautiful, completely replicated the jungle. But, people complain, and they say we want lower height, and we're getting a 50% replication now, and 50% is better than nothing.
Yeah, but we mentioned that the other one is because we had a 6% threshold, so it had one of the majority voters.
No, it was a simple majority.
Simple majority, it wasn't a state, it wasn't a state referendum where they made it 60%.
I don't, for me, it was important, and I know that it's important for people to see that replication. Initially, in the first project, we were getting a tower that was a little bit taller, but not anywhere near as tall as like the Carroll one next door. But there was a lot of vilification of this development, and it really upset me to see our community so angry about this. And frankly, it was a commissioner that kind of was like old me, because I was railing on everything when I first started. And I wish I would have brought people together and set the temperature and said, what's best for Miami Beach? And that's where and after the vote, I spoke to that commissioner, the one Nova who I used to meet. And I said, I wish I could have heard some voice in one, so that you don't get people so angry about any kind of vote, so that we can move forward with something that if you do nothing, then you're really gonna get nothing. And that's the truth. So, that's the. You gotta make it my truth. You're allowed to give me what I said.
True only as to what you believe is true. So there is no definition of truth. And I listen to everybody talking. Truth, your values cause you to believe certain things is true. I mean, if you read the Old Testament, you know that everybody doesn't believe everything is true. The Old Testament doesn't, I'm not as knowledgeable as the rabbi, but God gave us our own minds. And our minds are, and the answer is, as we sat around here, we said, we're not talking about politics. But half the evening, so far, 3/4 of it, has been politics. So let's be honest, politics is local when you were down at this level. I mean, I have different views of politics when you get up to the national level. I mean, I can vote Democrat as easily as I can vote Republican when it comes to local issues. I've been a Republican for most of my life, but I'm not that far to the left or that far to the right. I'm basically trying to listen to what my values were, how I was brought up, and what I think is beneficial for the community. The community locally is a much smaller thing, so what you have to do when you're involved in local politics is think about what the people overall want, and the best way, of course, to find out is by how they vote. And if you have a referendum, you win some and you lose some. It means that the majority did or did not believe in you, depends upon which side. And if you take it so far to heart that you can't talk to the other person, then there's something wrong with you, not the other person, or unless the other person takes the same view. I mean, in my own limited family, we have different political views. But you learn to live with those. You have to respect the other person's view and go on with your life. Otherwise, you'll destroy yourself. And, I came here, I listened to you talk about Sunny Isles. I first came down to Florida from my Bob Mitchell, who was the president, at 13 years of age. Okay? I knew after that at some stage, when I grew up, I was going to come and live in Miami Beach. I didn't come down to Miami Beach until the year 2000, when my children grew up. We stayed at home in New York. I have a little old-fashioned concept of you do things best with your children and yourself, and you wait until it's good for you, and you teach the children your values, and they're on their own from that standpoint. But so, Sunny Isles, I can remember as a college kid, a lot differently than you remembered it. And you'll forgive me if I say that was prostitutes' row. But it was. And the tearing down of those hotels did perform a valuable service. In addition, if you look at the way our community has grown up, Miami was a small little nothing town by comparison. Why did I want to come here? Because I was an avid beach lover. As I could spend time on the beach, that was the most important thing to me. Now I can't spend the time because of an illness. But it's still, now Miami Beach is totally different. It's a city with arts and sciences, museums, excellent restaurants. And it's not the little community that it was. I had also had the opportunity, and remember when I was in business, I was offered the opportunity of syndicating a lot of the little hotels along the way. And I said, it wouldn't survive. It wouldn't be a profitable investment. And it would not have been a profit, it still wouldn't have been. Because some of those hotels that we were talking about buying are still in existence, and they're now profitable. Because the attitude of people changed. That's why truth is, you can't argue it.
But what I mean by progress is like, as they built those towers, had they kept a renovated version of the original hotel and then put a luxury tower on the
I mean, anything.
people would have still gone and said, hey, remember when we used to go to the Castaways, or, so I think there's something about that brings like nostalgia. It's the preservation aspect. But I understand what you're saying. I mean, listen, I was born in Sunny Isles, so I just remember that with so much joy. So to see it all gone, I'm thinking, that's why I voted for this still. Because I thought it was important for us to have the luxury towers.
I stayed at the Ritz Plaza Hotel. Oh, yeah. For the summer. My father and recovered from a heart attack, and he said, camp, to go to summer camp for 8 weeks was $550 a week. They were raising it to $650, and he said, that's too expensive. He said, I negotiated with the owner, and he had, with the owner of the Ritz Plaza, whose name was Irvin Cohen. And our name was Cohen. And he got the penthouse, the owner's penthouse at the Lonely Plaza for 9 weeks for $900. That was 2 bedrooms, bath, maid service, and the like. I've taken my children to that place. It's now over $2,000 a night. But it still looks like the Lonely Plaza did.
Is it Lonely Plaza or Ritz Plaza?
I'm sorry, Ritz Plaza. I've been to the Lonely Plaza also. And the North, I mean, those are hotels that I like. And they're different. But they're renovating. The Delano is being renovated again, but it's still going to keep the name. On Lincoln Road, you see where the Lido is. There was where Pumpernicks or Wolfie's used to be. Now it's a Walmart, not a Walmart.
Okay, so, is there anyone else?
Progress occurs, people want it.
Does anyone else would like to tell us how they find the kids? Or how to find the kids? Yes, tell us.
I mean, I mean, what I do, and I believe is you have to be so careful on how you say things, right? I look at both sides, I listen to things on, you know, right wing media, left wing media.
Oh, no, but I
look at everything, you know, you have to use common sense about it, or another side, you don't use common sense, and like, don't just watch a clip or something, and make a judgment, and then that's it. You watch, well, all right, so why did that happen, that clip, show me the full 3 minutes or something, rather than 20 seconds, but really understand what you're listening to, or viewing, or talking about, and people don't really do that so much anymore. So you just gotta slow down, take it all in, and try to come up, you know, use common sense, so.
And fact check it.
I'll use alligator, Alcatraz as an example. You had a group of people, legislators who went in and told very simple, you had all ranges of immigrants or criminal activity, and they had different colored bracelets, and you know that they described every one. Then I heard the governor, and the governor said, well, these were the worst of the worst criminals. They were horrible, but we didn't know which. So you say, well, what is it? Who's in the cages? Is it horrible rapists and murderers that are getting deported? And you know, you just kind of want to understand what's happening, right? But you get these views, and at the end of the day, you have to say, well, what is like humanity, you know, in the United States, and what are we going to allow or normalize in our country? And I don't think that's partisan.
It's a nice opportunity, and it's better than how the January 64 you did, okay?
Okay, so but that's why
The truth here is that they committed a crime in the United States of America. It's just the truth, common sense. If I go to Italy and I cross that border, one detainee will be detained. It's just, why we should have exceptions? I understand where you're coming from, I have empathy, I live in North Beach, nothing but immigrants, they're my friends. In 2020, I helped those people, no jobs, hotels closed down, they weren't doing housekeeping for anybody, and I should put them back on whatever I could afford. By the way, I'm a very poor person, but no, but keep what it up. So,
what is happening there? Who is in there? And you said it's a very nice facility. Well, yeah, like, some people are saying it's not.
I mean, you live there for a week and tell me.
Where you steal a piece of gum, or you feel something, I mean,
If the solution is to scare people from, you know, coming here, but there's somebody to explain to people this.
But there is one common denominator, right? Ultimately, regardless of the crime they have been charged with and or committed, they still are being granted due process. There are attorneys present, there are immigration attorneys that I know personally working on these matters, because there are an influx of criminals that they are having to run through the system. Are they processing them efficiently? Are they handling the cases in a way that we would be happy with? Maybe in all cases, maybe for the most part, not 100%. But the attorneys are there, they are abiding by the rules. They are following due process. Prior to them being deported, the deportation proceedings are happening. So we can say all that we want, and journalists can report what they want on the ground. But what's happening inside of the facility, though it's attorney-client privilege, they are being granted that due process before they are being deported. So we have to bear that in mind. They are getting that opportunity before they are being sent back to their own country. And not in every case when they're being sent back, they are being changed of status. There are exceptions. I think things are being sensationalized and in the news, to fit a particular narrative. But to say that, you know, we're just going to assume that it's all bad because if we put it in place, look, the Miccosukee tribe just came out today and they're doing a class action lawsuit. We're gonna get to read the definition. We're gonna get to read all of the case files. We're gonna know what's going on truthfully at the facility. Until that time comes, we have to go through the process.
But you see, it's having this people.
It's down just the Everglades.
Yes, and that's why the class action lawsuit is coming out, and we're gonna be able to read through those files.
There's priorities in there.
Storage and control, like,
If the priorities are not allowed.
they're,
You know, they're not, that's what our orders are to keep them. I understand the idea. Maybe we can find the average one.
Everybody is agree with the consensus, with everything that we can agree with, that's true. So I'm not gonna imagine, because the party state, that's people get crazy. You see what I mean? For instance, for me, the truth is based on the moral values, the community, or the peace, things like that. So why that is for me, that is serious. Everybody who wants peace and other things. Here I see somebody that lives in Egypt, and whatever, and we don't have never discussion about different views about the state. Political stuff, you know, like Iran, the problems, something like that. Then for me, the truth is universal. I have to, for instance, what she was saying is saying about what is the we don't need to be more invented. You see?
Well, and that's the whole point, we're saying, you know, we're being fed stuff. And I think the most important thing, if we're gonna end, as a billion as a speaking church, is to fact check it. Because now if I say something and I question it, I put it into a search engine, I go to news, and I try to find what I would consider a reliable source, you know, like, and then a lot of times it's not true. And I stop myself from whatever that thought is that could create fear in me, that could create, and by the way, you know what's very interesting is that, when one of my good friends is Republican, and when Biden was president, she was in a state of anxiety and stress and so upset all the time. And she's like, great. And then I was like, you know, so I mean, that's when it dawned on me that, you know what, I can't take every single thing that I'm seeing online as, you know, as complete truth, and let me find out where I'm at is. And that's where we are right now.
Okay, now I can get up on here. So,
And rabbi. Where does it get?
I was thinking, if you have to sum it up, you know, to make you feel better, you know, the first slide, the story of the Bible, was with the snake. Right, and we tell a lot of times, oh, what a snake, right? What a snake. The snake literally told Chava, Eve, that God is lying. He just told her, God is lying. Because God said, if you're going to eat any fruit from that tree, right away, it's an apple tree. That's another lie. If you eat from that tree, you're gonna die. And the snake said, oh no, you're not gonna die. What's gonna happen? You're gonna know things you didn't know before. You're gonna get more knowledge. And after that, she ate it. She thought she didn't die. But what did she do? She went straight to her husband. Here, eat it too. Because nobody wants to be alone in anything. So I'm gonna tell you something. As an Israeli right now, not just as a rabbi, I am going through this world most of the time sad, disappointed, hurted from hearing people speak about, my country, how we do things, what are our intentions, and I am thinking, wow, they know so many lies and they don't know the truth. So I am in the business of education. I used to be a teacher. I will be a teacher, a rabbi is a teacher. So I think that what we need to do is to educate ourselves, take time. And it has to start with you, and I'm pointing at you, because I think you're the youngest one here. This group is here not for so long. It's up to you. It's up to you. If you're going to just look at pictures, just scroll pictures, that's not going to help. Because guess what? The subtitles are the most important things. Because a picture, you can look at that picture that everybody gets upset with, the cages. Of course it's upset people. Those are cages. Women, people, or kids are not supposed to be in cages. We're not animals. But you have to also read the subtitles. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the responsibility is on us. We can't say, oh, we're being fed, oh, this. There's always ways, and take the time. And I would say to you also as a rabbi, the Torah is a living stories that we can learn for today. It's not a dead story that happened 3,000 years ago. It's so relevant for everything that we're going through. So let's learn from it to do what's right. And for you, I will just tell you, always remember your role. What is your role? Your role is to serve all the people, the right, the left, the middle, and that's so. When you come into a space, you don't care to ask them, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? You don't care about it. You care about it. That's what it should be.
That's a great way to end. That was me this time.
Hey, how are you?
Yes, absolutely. I'll be
Personally after the meeting, we both have a group one and